I want to cross over to Florida, actually. There's a press conference about the hurricane, I believe.
Hurricane Idalia.
By 0800, it's going to make landfall on Florida's Big Bend. So please hunker down wherever you are. Don't mess with this storm. Don't do anything that's going to put yourself in jeopardy. And there'll be a lot of help coming on the back end of this storm, and we're ready to go. As soon as it's safe to do so, you're going to see all these different assets deployed. So stay safe. Any questions?
Do you feel like the state and residents here are prepared for this strength of the storm, you know, potentially in Category 5? I know we're in Category 4.
I think they're. I think if you look at the counties, I think that they mobilized very quickly. I think that they've been very clear about the storm surge threat and all these Zone A's across the Gulf Coast, and probably more so than any storm that I can remember in recent years. So people understand. You know, we've said from the beginning it was going to probably be a major hurricane, and that's what it is. And so we're here and we're ready, and we're gonna work hard on the back end to make sure everyone gets back up on their feet.
Is the message to shelter in place for all 49 counties that are under the state of emergency?
So it's if you're in a part, there's counties where the storms pass, so there may be some outer bands. That's not necessarily saying shelter. Saying if you're in the path of where the eye wall's going, you know, at this point you got to hunker down. And so those Big Bend counties, as we get into north central Florida, you know, you're in jeopardy at that point. And so it's really those places where it's going to hit the eye wall, where the eye wall's coming in, to be able to not mess with it. It's going to be a significant impact.
Any concerns about the 100 that decided to stay on Cedar Key?
Well, sure. I think that it's a hazardous situation. If you end up with storm surge that even approaches that 16 feet, the chance of surviving that is not great. You would need to be maybe even like on a 3-story building, because it is going to rise very, very highly. But there were some people. Now, most people did heed the warning, but there were some that that's what they wanted to do. And so once this passes, there will be rescue efforts done if need be, and hopefully it's not necessarily. Hopefully they knew what they were doing and they have a spot, but it's potentially very, very hazardous when you're talking about really anything even approaching 10 feet. But when you start talking about potentially 16 feet, that is a huge, huge deal.
Yesterday, the expectation was that there would be 40,000 electrical linemen in state to respond to the restoration effort.
What are the well? We said up to. We said probably between 30 and 40, and that's where we're at.
We're between 30 and 40.
Yeah.
We haven't talked to the crews this morning because they're actually out in the field doing what they're doing. So I'm not so much worried about the numbers right now as much as we are getting the power restored. So.
Yep. Oh.
Do you think that Florida caught a break here in the fact that this is hitting the Big Bend and not areas like the Tampa Bay area?
Well, it's not a break for the people that are in the pathway, so I think it's anytime you have it, it's difficult. You know, if you just look at the way Florida is cut, to have something go in this Big Bend, and it's going to be to Georgia relatively soon.
If you are listening to us on DAB Radio this morning, that is the Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who's doing a press conference to announce the arrival of U.S. Hurricane Idalia. Let's hear what he's got to say.
People, so you don't want to get hit at all. You want it to be as modest an impact as is humanly possible. And I think that there's different paths that some of these storms they take. Ian was one that was a really bad path just because it impacted so many people. Like, you know, people saw the images of Fort Myers Beach, and obviously that was a catastrophe. Those were catastrophic images. But, you know, you would go hundreds of miles away, and you had major flooding. You had erosion on the east coast of Florida in places like Volusia County, the beaches and things like that. You had structures falling down because of that. So it had massive impacts. And so anytime you do this, you know, you would want it to impact as small amount of places as possible.
What What do you think about Trump? You know, he's a resident here in Florida, and he hasn't commented on Idalia at all yet.
It's not my concern. My concern is protecting the people of Florida, being ready to go, and we've done that. And look, in Florida, you just have to do this. I mean, this is something we put a lot of time and effort into throughout the course of each year, knowing that there's going to be time where you're going to have to activate it. Now, we had a major one last year, one of the most expensive on record. We were hoping not to have any this year, that maybe we would get off lucky, and but that just wasn't in the cards. So you deal with it. But that's been our focus, getting all this stuff ramped up. I think the counties, by and large, I think have done a really good job.
So that is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis holding a press conference there about the incoming U.S. Hurricane Idalia.